After watching hundreds and hundreds of self-tape videos or self-tape auditions, I have concluded that the most important thing about your self-tape is the ability to be heard. Sound is probably the most important element to delivering a good audition. Sure, it's great to be seen, but to be seen and then not heard well? Well, that's the issue. On today's episode of Casting Actors Cast, let's do a deep dive into making sound choices with your sound. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. I'm a casting director with McCorkle Casting in New York. I hope you're having a good day. Thank you so much for joining us. This is that moment of the podcast where I get to say thank you so much for being here. We continue to just grow this podcast and these videos, these podios, exponentially. And I'm really excited that we are over 60,000 downloads of the podcast, and that's thanks to you. I couldn't be more grateful. Hey, listen, if you could, please leave a review, leave a like. Why don't you subscribe to the podios, the podcast videos? That way you won't miss a single episode. Also, I just want to say that we're changing things just a little bit here because I have a reciprocity, good word, agreement with a lot of the sponsors that I have. I'm just going to pull back a little bit and just share briefly with you a couple of those folks who are choosing to put me on their websites, and I'm just simply returning the favor. One is Actors Connection, actorsconnection.com. I invite you to check them out. They do really great classes, intensives, workshops with industry professionals. There's a location in Los Angeles as well as in New York. Of course, I'm partial to the one in New York. And hello to my good friends Colleen and Tony. And I invite you to please do check them out. Also, you can check out my schedule by going to our website, castingactorscast.com. That's castingactorscast, all one word.com. And there's a place where you can check out the classes that I am teaching at. And there are many, and I love teaching. So it would be really cool if that's something that you're interested in. If you want to get some advice, some feedback from me, I am happy to be there for you as well. Also on the website, there's a place that says dive into the talent pool. And if you just simply fill out that form, that's going to open up another page where you can download a free book about doing voiceover work called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the voiceover workshop for professional actors. It's a 100-page PDF that you can download, you can read on your device at your leisure. I'm proud to say that it's in many colleges and institutions that are training voiceover actors, and you get it absolutely for free just by showing up to the website, just by tuning in. Also, there is a video that's also free called Casting Director Secrets, What They Don't Want You to Know. I'm going to tell you in this just brief, really kind of fun 20-minute video that's absolutely free of charge. So I look forward to having your feedback on that. And speaking of feedback, you can give me any kind of feedback when you fill out that form. It says dive into the talent pool, and there's a place where you can leave notes. By the way, I don't do anything with your email address, by the way. I don't spam you. I don't do anything like that. On rare occasions, I think maybe 3 times in the last 3 years, I might send something out like, I sent out a Halloween best wishes a year ago, I think. So it's that kind of thing. It's not to try and solicit you for other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I just want this to be a supportive, like-minded community of actors who want to tune in and hear how they can make better career choices, how they can feel better about their work. And that's all that I'm here to do, frankly. And then finally, I just want to say that if you have a question, you want to submit a video for an evaluation on a future podcast, do that by going to castingactorscast@gmail.com. So there's all kinds of ways that you can ask questions, you can subscribe, you can download. There's just all kinds of stuff. Jump in. The water is fine. Thank you for that. So let's just move right into the subject at hand and talk about poor sound submissions. And it's so amazing that I think that good quality sound, if thought of at all, ends up sort of being an afterthought for a lot of actors based on the submissions that I've seen. And here are some examples that I can share with you. One is that sometimes the reader in the auditions I'm receiving, and it's a live reader. In other words, the reader is in the same space as the actor when they're recording their video, but the reader's too close to the phone. And the phone is used as the recording device. But if the reader is too close, it always happens. I hear the reader really well, but I don't hear the actor really well. So understand that the proximity of the reader to the device makes a huge difference in the quality of sound I'm getting. So please make sure that if you're using a live reader in your space, to move them equally distant from where you are to the device as the reader is to the device. Sometimes I also see that the actor is a little bit too far from the microphone. And that just simply makes it difficult for us to hear the actor. And so you really need to just be aware of how that microphone is picking up your voice. And the further away you are from your microphone, the least attractive your voice sounds, only because now I'm straining to hear it, but also the musicality of your voice is lost the further away you are from the microphone. Here's a third thing that I see a lot, is that the actor is recording in what I call a live room. And what I mean by that is that the room has a lot of space in it sometimes. And, you know, I think all the time, I think, gosh, I'm so glad that actor has a fantastic basement that they can work in. But guess what? The sound is bouncing all over the place. And so a live room can be really problematic. You get echo, you get some sort of distortion or reverb. There's all kinds of things that can take place. So my best advice is, the first step when you're taking a look at your self-submit videos is to simply evaluate the sound issue. For example, using the mic on your recording device is really not the best. In fact, oftentimes it is the least effective way to get a good audition sound. And so you might need to consider other options. And we're going to be talking about those in just a minute. The other thing I see is, when I say evaluate the issue, it's because a lot of actors aren't thinking that sound is really that important. And I'm here to tell you that sound is equally, if not more important. I'll go so far as to say that I think that casting directors like myself were a little more forgiving about the lack of visual acuity. Ooh, good word. Where did that come from? But the sound, we just have a harder time being able to see your work, more importantly, to hear your work, because we just have to now strain to hear. Now, the other thing I see quite frequently is that actors don't spend any time knowing how to sweeten the sound in post-production. Now, I'm not talking about enhancing the sound to a point where it sounds like you're like an FM radio DJ. I am talking about knowing the technology that you possess when you're putting together your self-submit video, that you can actually improve a little bit the quality of the sound. Things like volume. You can make yourself a little bit louder in post-production. For example, if you're using iMovie, or you're using any one of the many software packages that are available if you're a PC user. But there are some things that you can do to sweeten the sound in post-production. Now, like I just want to put another warning flag out there. I don't necessarily want you to overdo it, but a little bit of equalization, or EQ, can be relatively helpful. A little bit of volume can be relatively helpful. There is also a term used in sound called leveling. And that means that the things that are really a little too loud get less loud, and the things that are not that loud become a little more loud. In other words, it levels out the sound. And that's called the leveler. And that's simply highlighting the audio track and employing that leveler switch onto your video. So those are some things that I just see actors not spending any time thinking about. And here are some additional solutions that can easily work. And the bottom line best solution I have, and I brought props today. I'm holding it up for those of you who can see me, but if you can't see me, I'm holding this up. It's called a lavalier microphone. And I know you probably have seen these before, but they clip on your lapel or on your top or your shirt. And there's a cord that goes down. By the way, I would not necessarily spend a lot of money and invest in expensive wireless microphones. I don't think it's worth it. I think it just kind of creates more problems sometimes. But this is a wired microphone. It clips on your lapel. You drop the cord down your shirt. It comes with, I'm not kidding you, a 20-foot extension cord that then plugs into your microphone jack. Now, whether that is your iPhone, by the way, if you do have an iPhone, you might need the well-known dongle that plugs into your iPhone, and then you plug the microphone into that dongle to make it work. Sometimes you can just take the plug and it's a 1/4-inch jack that goes right into your laptop as well. What I love about that is this lavalier microphone, you can just simply Amazon it, just go on Amazon, check it out. It's like $20. It's like the best thing that you can do for yourself. And the quality of the sound is exceptional. So that would be the number one choice suggestion that I would make. By the way, the holidays are here coming up upon us. You might want to make a suggestion if somebody wants to get you a present, or do yourself a favor. Just don't get 2 cafe lattes from Starbucks and you can afford the damn lavalier microphone that's going to last you forever. So the second choice I would suggest you at least consider is any kind of external mic that is closer to your voice. The closer a microphone is to your voice, the better. Now, obviously, because I'm doing a podcast, I have a really nice Shure microphone, and you don't see it in the video because I block it out. I mask it so you can't really see it, but it's relatively close to my voice, so you get a pretty decent sound of my voice. So even if you got yourself the Snowball microphone, or you got the Blue Yeti microphone, I know you've probably seen some of these out there. I'm not making a specific recommendation here, but if you have an external mic that can get closer to your voice, I think that that's a better choice. So the first choice would be the lavalier mic. The second choice would be, a different mic, an external mic, but having it closer to the proximity of your voice is such a good idea. Now, let's move on to another issue. And this is something I think that there's a lot that you can do without having to invest in an expensive microphone. And that is to decide on the vocal output for every audition that you have. What I mean by that, this is so amazing. For a theater audition, you don't have to necessarily show me that you can project your voice like you're in a theater. Audition in the space you are currently auditioning in, just as you would if you're brought in from an outside, if you're brought into a live audition scenario. Don't necessarily think you have to do this extra projecting simply because it's a theater audition. Just simply make a decision on the vocal energy you're going to need for whatever that audition is, whether it's film, whether it's a television audition, or whether it's theater. Just give yourself a mental note about what it is you're auditioning for, and then simply be in the space that you are currently in. I want to also talk about resolving sound issues that do not involve microphones. And this is also one of those things to check out, as I talked about earlier, that if you're in a basement space, for example, or in a space that the sound is bouncing all over, you might want to just consider soundproofing the space a little more aggressively. There are those inexpensive moving blankets that you can put up on a wall. Generally speaking, hard surfaces, glass surfaces like you'll find in if you have artwork on your walls or television sets in the room, just covering those up with a sound blanket can make a significant impact and can make a difference. And now that has nothing to do with your microphone. That's just really checking out the space that you're in and deciding, are there things that I can do to help reduce the sound? Putting an area carpet on the bare floor, for example, is a really great idea. It absorbs the sound. The second thing of issues is that, like I said earlier, is to move the reader. Putting the reader in a slightly different place is such a good idea to give a really better balance of sound. Now, the problem is that you have to stop looking at the reader and using the reader in the audition, right? Because if you move the reader away, that means, and you're going to be looking at the reader, suddenly you're giving me profile on a video audition, and you don't want to do that. And I know it feels a little weird, but consider still imagining that actor just 1.5 feet from your face, and hear the reader slightly differently, and you're going to be in much better shape. Now, the other thing that happens a lot is when you use Zoom, and I encourage this, by the way, is if you have a script, for example, that you need to audition, and I'm not talking about a live Zoom situation where you have a reader provided you in Zoom. I'm talking about recording. Using the record function in Zoom is really a great way that you can put together your audition. But consider zooming in the reader so that the sound balance is really equal between you and the reader. And then when you record using the record function in Zoom, it's automatically saved into the correct format so that you can do whatever edits you need to do, which is the MP4 format. So I think that's a great tip. If you're using Zoom, why not zoom in the reader as well? You don't have to put them on a phone or a separate speaker. You just simply Zoom with them. And when you record, it is only recording you because you are the host and you've pinned the spotlight on you in Zoom. Now, here are some common questions that I get regarding audition sound. Yes, it is okay to see the lavalier microphone in your video. I know, it sounds crazy, right? I tell you, it's actually counterintuitive to what you might think. And that is whenever I see an actor with a lavalier mic, I don't go, oh, I see the microphone. I don't do that. Here's what I say to myself. Oh, they know what they're doing. I really do. So it's okay to see the lavalier microphone. I suggest that you drop the cord down so we don't have to see the whole thing, but you can drop the cord down your shirt and just see the little bud. Now, a lot of time actors will spend time trying to hide that microphone. And the problem with that is that sometimes when the clothing is covering the mic, you get that brushing sound from the clothing, and that can kind of also ruin a really good audition. So that's kind of the best advice that I can give you about using your lavalier mic. Another common question is, there's this assumption that more projection is better because you're doing a theater audition. And the answer is, it is not. What happens if you're using a lavalier microphone for a theater audition and you decide to project, you're now over-modulating to the point of distortion. Distorted audio is something you cannot fix post-production. So be really careful about over-projecting, even though it's a theater audition. It still is important that you imagine the reader as being just simply 2 feet from you when acting. Your visual is good. They're standing right there in front of you as if they're in the room with you. If you just project that, imagine that, embrace that, then you're going to be having no problems whatsoever. So just simply imagining the reader 2 feet from you when you're doing your audition is going to give you the amount of vocal energy you need. So common issues with the microphone that I have seen, I love the fact that many actors are going out and getting a lavalier microphone, but they are over-modulated because they're talking too much, or in their settings, they're pushing the settings all the way up to maximum, or under-modulating. They've turned down the microphone so much that it becomes almost impossible to hear. So this means that if you do an additional external microphone for your recording, make sure you test it every time. It just takes you a couple of extra minutes to test it and play it back to make sure it's working well. You know, that's something that it can save you not only time, but you're going to be so much better off with your auditions. The other common thing that I hear from actors is they just simply are never going to be happy with the sound of their voice. Ever. And as you probably have heard from before, if you're a listener of the podios, the podcast videos, then you know that we are listening with a different part of our brains than when we are producing sound through our voice. And that juxtaposition, good word, is what makes us kind of have this negative reaction to the sound of our voice. So just be aware of that. And guess what? The more you listen to yourself, the more you hear yourself, the more objective you're going to be. And eventually you're not going to have that negative reaction. You just have to be comfortable with it for enough time. And so stick it out for the duration. Don't just dismiss that you sound the way you sound. You sound the way you sound because of your uniqueness. Embrace that. Now, listen, when you know that the sound for your submissions is really good, I promise you, you are never going to regret the time you spent on good sound by either purchasing a microphone or an external mic, really evaluating the environment that you are in. The truth is, actually, you're going to see an increase in your callbacks. Hear what I'm saying? And an increase in requests for auditions. And the person who's making those requests might not even know why, but somehow they can hear you and they can see you, and it becomes such an important tool. They don't have to know why. You have to know why. You have to know that sound is that important. And sound advice is just that. Sound advice. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. This is Casting Actors Cast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Casting Actors Cast is made possible with your support just by listening. Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.